Hello and welcome to Autocar Professional. I'm in Chennai today at the Future Powertrain Conclave, and I'm delighted to be joined by Mr. Deshpande, who's representing Cummins India today. So there's a lot of talk about how India will see a mix of powertrain solutions going forward. That's what we are here to discuss today, and how the journey for India's net zero carbon is not sort of going to be an easy way like we've seen in other countries. So let's start with that. What is the kind of solutions that you see for the Indian market? What is the kind of mix that you expect? And then we'll delve deeper into the company perspective.
Sure. Thanks for the question. So you're right. Actually, India as a country, we have signed up to go carbon neutral by 2070. Uh, it's little later than most of the other modern countries, but our challenges remain very similar. Every country that's going through this journey right now is actually faced with the choice in terms of what technology they choose, which is the most probable solution, what is most efficient, and what will be most adaptable in the mass scale that we want it to be.
Yeah.
So those are the challenges which are there in every market. What's unique to India? India is very TCO sensitive market in most applications, right from passenger car all the way till commercial vehicles. So what happens is that any technology adoption cost becomes quite prohibitive to develop and deploy that technology. So that's the unique challenge for us. What that means is that going forward, we are not going to see one solution. You're actually going to see a mix of solutions. The today's diesel engines will continue to improve. That's what we are seeing ahead of ourselves. Today, still a large share of the powertrains market is diesel. We'll also see gas. We have seen adoption in certain segments already happening, like three-wheelers. And going forward, you'll also see solutions like hydrogen, which are again gas-based. And India is actually at the forefront in terms of leading this technology and adapting it to the local market. Now, ultimately, at some point in time, quite a few technologies will migrate towards like BEV, hybrid, those kind of solutions. But I think it will remain to be seen what is the pace of each of these technology, how it gets adopted. Like I said, India being a very cost-sensitive market, our trajectory may be different than other markets.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially about diesel. We're seeing sort of a resurgence of cleaner diesel. A lot of people call it like a very bad marketing ploy in terms of how, because there are companies who have invested in it and how, so, they want to reclaim that. And then there's another side of the story, like the EV bandwagon, where people say that it's derailing the EV adoption process. Which side of the debate are you on? And how do you see this entire debate on cleaner diesels coming back throughout the world?
Yeah. So I will say I am not actually in each of any of this. At Cummins, we actually believe that there is a multitude of solution to get to the same target. It depends on quite a few building blocks. The number one being whether there is infrastructure available for any technology to get adopted. For example, talk EV. In a segment like commercial vehicles, I doubt whether we'll be able to actually scale up the infrastructure of charging to the same level in the due course of time to actually make it viable technology. So infrastructure is definitely one. The other is cost, which definitely is the other angle that comes into picture. And the last one being actually being able to kind of localize and source all of these technologies regionally in the place where you need it, and there is a lot of geopolitics involved in all of this, of course. So all of these various factors are actually something that's going to drive the adoption. So that's where I said, as Cummins, we are not in each of the any of the bandwagon. We are actually a firm believer that the path to destination zero is multifold. Each region will adopt what is the right path for them. We as OEM have to offer those choices to the end customer and let them choose what is the right path for them. That's
So it's going to be a customer-driven transition. So talk a bit about Cummins India and how the company sees the Indian market. Like you said, it has to be different solutions for local markets, domestic markets. So how will that evolve from your perspective? Because it's very different from how things are evolving globally.
Yeah. So that's a great question because Cummins entered India about 60 years back. So it's one of those MNCs which is truly global in nature. So we have tech centers around the world, but the biggest one outside of US and the one and only one that houses all the business units of Cummins is actually in India, in Pune. That's one of the very differentiating factors about Cummins, that while most of the MNCs are building their global technical centers right now or maybe a few years back, we have been here since number of years. So India definitely plays a very big role for Cummins Global in terms of both having the engineering skill sets, capability to develop products. Just in my specific area of influence, actually the biggest team outside of US in design and analysis space actually is with me here in India. So about 80% of my team actually does global engineering work sitting in here in India. Again, from a business perspective, Cummins India is a very big part of Cummins Global, contribute about roughly 5% of our top line, which is a significant number for for a country like India. And going forward, through technologies like hydrogen, we are actually going to be leading in some of these technology developments where our learnings, our knowledge will actually get cascaded to other regions. So overall, from a context perspective, Cummins plays a very big role. The last but not the least to forget, the contributions outside of just the product top line and bottom line is also in the form of what we export, because we are a low cost hub for Cummins for many components. So we actually have a dedicated unit in Fulton that actually produces parts, components that actually get exported to various plants, so as to ensure that the cost of production for them comes down.
Yeah, that's a very good point, especially in the context of when we talk about China plus one and how India can sort of become that emerging market where the world can look for, manufacturing in India for the world and even to satisfy its domestic needs. How do you see Cummins India placed in that regard? And going forward, if there is any outlook or projections for the market growth that you could share?
Yeah, I think from a market growth perspective, we definitely see that India will continue to grow GDP plus, right, in terms of at least the 6-7% GDP growth we see. We see Cummins in India will grow probably similar if we're able to really come up with good products, maybe at a higher rate. So that's definitely from a market growth perspective. To your point of China plus, Cummins is actually setting up a center of excellence for manufacturing in India. So which means that we are going to find out right opportunities for us to get into component development here locally with regional stakeholders like suppliers, and basically export them out of India. So there are dedicated efforts right now in place. There is a strategy being worked around that.
Yeah, that's again a very good point. While we are somewhat sorted on the manufacturing front, there's a lot of criticism still that R&D needs to be localized more, and India needs to focus more on tech part of it, R&D part of it, have its own IPs. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, it's definitely an area where again regulatory clearances and regulatory clarity is required, right? Most of the times today, some of our IP related laws are such stringent that we are looked at more as a contract R&D model from a global perspective, because that's what makes maximum business sense from an organization perspective. So that's an area where definitely some work should happen in the regulatory space, such that folks who are sitting here can also working on the latest and cutting edge technology, develop solutions which can be patented, which can be taken through the trade secret route, various means of securing our IP. That's definitely an area where there more work needs to happen. But I would say that there are places where this is changing. For example, software or a digital part of it, right? That's one area where, because of the talent availability, we see a lot of pull for a lot of that global work happening out of India. Again, maybe more cutting edge also. For example, AutoSAR is the new software that's coming up across as a kind of a mandate across the board. That's an area where India is doing a lot of work for global.
Also, it will for sure require a lot of reskilling, because even you have to unlearn and relearn a lot of things with the technology that is impending, because even India doesn't know what the kind of solution that will stick finally when we reach our net carbon neutrality goals. So, in that sense, what do you think in terms of reskilling perspective is needed to take us to the next step?
Yeah. So today, if you look at the talent pool that's available in this industry, most of them are either mechanical, chemical engineers, right? Quite a few think that they need to jump to electronics or electrical to really make a change completely. I think what's important for people to know is that at the heart of it, everybody needs to know that they are a good systems engineer. I think that's one skill set that I would highly advise anyone to think about, because I think more than just the specific engineering discipline, it is the system view that actually lets anyone do a better job and actually cross train across various, I would say, domains, like from mechanical to chemical, or switching from chemical to software. All of it is comes down to actually how do you think as a system and how do you look at a system view. That's one skill definitely that's important for people to know and learn. And from an organization perspective, we definitely are cognizant of the fact that there needs to be people who are multi-skilled and multifaceted, and we are trying our best through our internal means and strategies to really cross-train people on various subjects. So, for example, through job rotations and things like that, how do you build multi-talented individuals who are able to take up more and more responsibilities and leadership roles.
Got it. Lastly, since we are in Chennai and Tamil Nadu as a state has done a lot to promote itself as a hub for not just EV manufacturing but auto manufacturing, auto ancillaries. Almost 40% of auto ancillaries are manufactured here, and even the minister is really keen that even in new technologies, the state sort of has a important stake. So how do you see that happening? Because they have a goal of 1 trillion economy by 2030. So how do you see that happening? What are the factors that will sort of enable? Because you also have a presence in the region as well.
Yeah, we have a fairly small presence in Tamil Nadu, but yeah, our major presence is in Maharashtra. But I think you are right. In the last few years, from a government perspective, the government has kind of given a lot of incentives for industries to come here and set up parks. So we have seen Mahindra have a big tech center here. Similarly, Daimler has a presence here. So there's a lot of organizations who are coming here, and that's all driven by incentives and ease of doing business. I think if the government continues to do that, even in the new technology space, I am pretty sure they'll be successful in achieving their goals.
Yeah. Is it like a China kind of policy that we need? Because there they compete provinces wise. There are like smaller provinces that have sort of developed, and that's how they compete with each other. That's how new competitive products are made. So do you see India evolving into, like, when Mr. Musk was entering the country, a lot of state governments were sort of really excited and welcoming him to come and manufacture here. So how do you see India developing as local manufacturing hubs, and that sort of taking us forward as really competitive hubs that could sort of catapult us into a manufacturing powerhouse?
I would say to that effect, right? What you are saying is already happening through our own democratic system. To say that every state has their own policies that they try to govern in terms of what are their growth trajectories and how they want to get there. So you will see, like Maharashtra used to be a fairly important state in that sense for automotive. I think Tamil Nadu has really given some good incentives thereby. Similarly, is the state of Gujarat. So you will see that this is happening naturally, in my view, and I think it needs to continue. I won't comment on the China model, but that's how I see India.
Sure. But just lastly, India to reach its carbon neutrality goals, if you could define a path that the country could take to sort of, because right now what's happening, because of multiplicity of technology, even at the consumer end, it's sort of derailing the process of electrification. We've seen in the last few months, EV has sort of seen a slowdown at the pace of growth, not the actual growth itself. So how do you see these technologies developing and the mix developing by 2030, say?
So I think by 2030, in my view, across most segments, IC engines will continue to remain the main driving factor, the main powertrain of choice. That's largely because of the scale and what we see in front of us with respect to the typical cost pressures that every segment experiences. So I definitely think that will remain the mainstay. What will change is a pretty strong adoption of technology like CNG, LNG, and also ethanol in car segments, and maybe biodiesel in the segment of commercial vehicles. So I think that's what I definitely see will shift slightly. We will continue to see EV penetration. There is no doubt that green EVs will remain the final destination technology. But I think the path is somewhat, this is how it will go. That's how I put it.
Sure. On that note, thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you.